Monday Night Raw scores its lowest primetime viewership in WWE history. We've got news on the WrestleMania 38 card being in flux after Shane McMahon's WWE departure, a humorous story when it comes to Randy Orton and Shane McMahon from the Royal Rumble, plus some updates when it comes to NXT Vengeance Day. All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is plenty of news stories to get into today, so let's start off talking about Monday Night Raw. Now, it must be pointed out that a lot of people are going to be talking about the Raw ratings this week and it not being great, a record low for the company, a record low for the show. Now, there is reasons for this considering the network that they were on, but it's a story worth discussing anyway because I do think it speaks to the wider issue when it comes to Raw ratings, television ratings, etc. So let's get into it because Monday's live WWE Raw drew an average of 1.387 million viewers on Sci-Fi, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. Now, of course, this is down over 25% from last week's 1.865 million viewers for the post-Royal Rumble show on the USA Network. Now, the first hour drew 1.376 million viewers. Of course, that first hour was commercial-free. The second hour drew 1.449 million viewers, and the final hour drew 1.337 million viewers. Now, Monday's Raw drew a 0.36 rating in the 18 to 49 key demographic. This, of course, is down over 23% from last week's 0.47 key demo rating. Raw ranks number 3 for the night in the cable top 150 with the 0.36 rating. This is down from last week's number 1 spot. In terms of viewership, Raw ranked 20th for the night on cable behind several other programs. Of course, there's the Winter Olympics going on as well, which is a big ratings draw at the moment, plus your general cable and network lineup on a Monday night. Now, this week's Raw on Sci-Fi drew the lowest audience in show history for a primetime airing, which is significant, but it was the first time since 2008 that Raw was bumped from the USA Network to Sci-Fi. So this significant drop that we are seeing in the ratings, this significant drop overall, was to be expected. And a lot of people coming into this week's show did expect to see a big drop off. I don't know if they were expecting to see record lows, but those within the company aren't too concerned because it was expected. Now, the lowest viewership in overall show history came on August 25th, 2008, when Raw was moved to 12:40 a.m. due to the US Open tennis and drew 483,000 viewers. Now, the key demo rating isn't actually the lowest for the show, as the December 6, 2021 episode drew a 0.35 key demo rating. Now, the men's figure skating of the Winter Olympics aired in the usual Raw time slot on the USA Network, and it drew 2.071 million viewers with a 0.40 key demo rating. So actually, some weeks, I mean, in terms of viewership, Raw doesn't tend to do over 2 million anymore, but in terms of the key demo rating, Raw's usually pretty close with that. As I mentioned last week, it was 0.47. So they'll be looking at that going, actually, you know, maybe we could we can do similar kind of numbers in terms of the key demo rating when it comes to that. Again, obviously, a lot of people that don't like WWE or have an axe to grind against WWE or are fans of other companies will look at this and say, see, Raw's in decline, WWE's in decline. As I mentioned, it was to be expected. So I don't think it's a big enough story to say, oh, it's indicative of WWE's decline, all that kind of stuff. It was expected. I think the being bumped from the USA Network to Sci-Fi, plus television being what it is, I mean, it all leads to one thing, and that's the lowest primetime audience of all time when it comes to WWE. So I don't think there will be those within WWE that will be panicking, tearing their hair out, running around, flipping the script for future episodes of Monday Night Raw or anything like that. I don't think Raw's going to go back to 2 hours because they did that number. It's to be expected. Furthermore, I know those within the AEW fans will be saying, well, this will be the week, right? That maybe AEW Dynamite beats Raw in terms of the viewership. No, I don't see that as well. Look, Dynamite usually hovers around the 1 million mark. Sometimes it's 900,000-ish like it was last week. Sometimes it's 1.1 million or 1 million viewers. We're still looking at 1.387 million viewers. If AEW Dynamite did 1.387 million viewers, people would be going crazy about it. People would be raving about it. I know there's surprises and new arrivals and free agents planned for Dynamite tonight. I would be really, really surprised if they beat Raw in terms of the viewership. In terms of the key demo, a 0.36, Dynamite could beat that. Absolutely, Dynamite could beat that this evening, and I'm sure those, again, it will cause... It definitely won't cause any kind of arguments, right? Of course it will, because it's social media. Those that are like WWE and those like AEW, they'll be going like this at each other and going, see. And it's not really a fair or valid argument, in my opinion. So it is what it is when it comes to the Raw viewership. And I think they're on Sci-Fi again next week, I think. But after that, it will get back to usual, I think. So I don't think those within WWE will be ultimately too concerned. I want to talk about WrestleMania 38 because when we spoke about WrestleMania 38 here on the channel recently, I spoke about how every single year, and especially if you follow the ins and outs of professional wrestling, specifically WWE for long enough, you'll always see the same thing when it comes to WrestleMania time. And that is that WWE has no idea what the card's going to be for WrestleMania. I said it when it came to the Royal Rumble. I said it before the Royal Rumble. And look, and I'm hardly a prophet. I'm hardly Nostradamus, but we're in the same point. We're in February now, and the reports come out. WWE doesn't really know what the WrestleMania card looks like. Things are changing. It's in a state of complete flux. So this is what the report says. WWE is reportedly looking for another top match for the WrestleMania 38 card. Now, in fairness, this is because of the Shane McMahon departure. As we spoke about here on the channel, WWE did have plans for Shane McMahon to work Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania 38. Of course, those plans were cancelled due to the heat he had coming out of the Royal Rumble when he was the lead writer and producer on the match and made the whole match about himself, etc. And WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon made the decision to send home his son after all of this heat and disagreements with Shane about creative and all of the above, essentially. Well, in a new update from WrestleVotes, they have noted that Shane's match for WrestleMania 38 was actually going to be positioned quite high up on the card or near the top of the card. Now, we don't really know who that was going to be against. There's been rumors Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, Austin Theory. All that we know is that it was going to be high up on the card. And due to Shane being nixed from WrestleMania, WWE officials are now looking for a new, quote, major attraction match outside of the top title matches. The two title matches that we know of so far, of course, Reigns versus Lesnar for the Universal Championship might be for both the WWE and the Universal Championship. We know also we're getting Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. For the SmackDown Women's Championship, it looks very likely we're also going to get Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship as well. So because of Shane's departure, they're looking for this big or new major attraction match outside of those top title matches. This is what the report said, quote, "This goes without saying, but the WrestleMania card is still in complete flux. It's quite amazing." So, but again, this isn't, and I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's surprising or this and that when it comes to WWE, but it's not. I vividly recall, because I lived it, and everyone lived it last year, watching Raw and SmackDown going into WrestleMania 37 and being like, I have no idea what this card looks like, and I don't think WWE does. It was like 3 weeks out from WrestleMania. They were still firming up the Raw side of things. And it will be the same this year because they just, and it's been like this for a while. I can recall going back to, I want to say at least WrestleMania 29. I recall seeing the same report every year. We don't know what the WrestleMania card looks like. The build-up to WrestleMania has been illogical and poor. Nobody knows what the matches are. WWE is still finalizing it. Vince McMahon hasn't signed off on it. This, that, and the other. And the big matches, yeah, they do get planned out way in advance. WWE has wanted to do Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns since Brock Lesnar came back in SummerSlam last year. The Ronda Rousey stuff, I think, is firmed up quite a lot in maybe the last 3 months or so. So they've always got an idea of the big matches they want to do. That's always the plan. It was the same last year. The decision was made, I mean, to be fair, last year was complete chaos because at one point the plan was to do Edge versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship in an I Quit match. That changed to Edge versus Roman Reigns. That changed to Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. The year prior, of course, everything was complete in chaos because of the pandemic. That's a bit of a write-off. But WrestleMania 35 was the same. Changing plans, especially when it comes to, WWE Championship picture, etc. It's always like this when it comes to WWE. Everything is just constantly changing. And what it leads to is events like the Royal Rumble. What it leads to is events like, Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown last year heading into WrestleMania where the television is completely illogical. It doesn't make any sense because they're constantly making it up. Any good story doesn't just get changed from page to page to page. If you were reading a book And literally on one page you could say, okay, the story's going here, and then on the next page you go, now I'm going to go a completely different direction. When you're reading it, you would say, this makes no sense. It's illogical. What's going on here? And that's the same for WrestleMania every year. So I'm not shocked that the card's still in complete flux. I'm not shocked at all, because that's that's how it works with WWE, unfortunately. So the big matches are what they are, but even they aren't safe. Last year proved it. Even they're not safe. So I'm sure we'll see plenty of twists and turns to come, and people will say that was planned, that was by design. It's really not. Speaking of Shane McMahon, there's a humorous story going around when it comes to Shane McMahon and the chaos of the Royal Rumble match, specifically the Men's Rumble match a couple of weekends ago, and it regards Randy Orton. So Fightful Select ran a story the prior weekend about Randy Orton and Shane McMahon's numbers actually getting mixed up in the Royal Rumble. So the Fightful Select have clarified this story because a lot of people misinterpreted it. So Randy Orton was essentially supposed to be entering at number 28, and he was ready to walk through the curtain when Shane McMahon's music hit instead. Now, a shocked Shane McMahon headed towards the curtain and expressed his displeasure when Randy Orton sent him a, quote, verbal cue that he wouldn't be going out. And that's what Fightful Select had reported from those that had seen what had happened. Now, they've actually learned that this verbal cue wasn't so much of, oh, Shane, it's you've got to go. The verbal cue was Randy Orton bursting into laughter at the error to the point where he fell on the ground laughing at the situation, literally rolling on the floor, laughing his ass off. Now, fortunately, reportedly, Orton was able to compose himself pretty well to enter immediately following that and spent a couple of minutes in the Rumble before being eliminated. Reportedly, the reaction seemed to be in good fun after what was just a hectic day. I mean, I think it's just indicative of the chaos, to be honest, of that Rumble. The more stories we hear, the more it's just like it was chaos. Nobody knew what was going on. And Randy Orton probably just fell down laughing because he's like, it just sums it up. And it is funny at the same time that you see these quarterly earnings reports or these quarterly earning calls, and WWE talking about their revenue being over $1 billion and the success they're having with Peacock and this, that, and the other, and record revenue, record profits, and you've got people backstage when they're doing the show don't even know what number they're coming out to. They haven't got their biggest show of the year booked yet because they have no idea which way they're going. And it's kind of like, it's amazing because WWE, don't get me wrong, they've got people in that company that are really, really good at what they're doing and really smart at what they're doing because they make record revenue, make record profits. They've got business people in that company that are very smart. For better or for worse, people might hate Nick Khan, but you can't argue that he knows how to make money. But when it comes to like the creative side of things and scheduling side of things, when it comes to things like putting together a Rumble match, it's just chaos. And it's almost staggering that they're able to make that much money. This publicly traded billion-dollar company, or maybe multi-billion-dollar company at this point, still doesn't know which entrant people are coming out in the Royal Rumble. It's like having a Marvel film and the actors, before they're shooting their scenes, have no idea what their lines are or what they're meant to be doing next or who their scene's going to be with, and it's crazy. It really is crazy. We have some updates when it comes to NXT Vengeance Day. Of course, that's next week on Sci-Fi. We have an update when it comes to the Men's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals. Last night's NXT 2.0 on Sci-Fi opened up with the Creed brothers defeating the Grizzled Young Veterans to advance to the finals of NXT Vengeance Day. MSK later defeated Idris Enofe and Malik Blade to advance as well. So next week's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals at Vengeance Day, we'll see the Creed brothers battle MSK. The winners will earn a future title shot from NXT Tag Team Champions Imperium and also have their names added to the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Trophy. I mean, I would prefer the Creed brothers one because I think the Creed brothers are money. I really think they're money. I think they've got great look, great size. They're still incredibly green, but there really is something there. I think, though, you would look at it and go, well, if the winner gets a tag team title shot, I mean, if it's babyface, it would be MSK. But we've seen Diamond Mine feuding with Imperium recently, so it makes sense that the Creed brothers will win that one. So I think the Creed brothers will win that. Also, when it comes to Vengeance Day, we have an update when it comes to the Steel Cage match at the event of Pete Dunne versus Tony D'Angelo. Last night, it was announced that the Steel Cage match will now be a weaponized Steel Cage match. Now, that match possibly could be Pete Dunne's last in NXT 2.0. We've seen him do a couple of dark matches before Raw and SmackDown recently, some main event matches as well. So and he represents the old NXT, and I think the new NXT is just completely different. And Pete Dunne, a bit like Tommaso Ciampa, a bit like all of those names don't really fit anymore, and slowly over time they're gradually disappearing. And I think it'll be the same. I think Pete Dunne, Tommaso Ciampa, and Roderick Strong, I think they'll all go up to the main roster very quickly. And I think Tony D'Angelo wins that match, and it might be Pete Dunne's final swan song, if you will, in NXT 2.0. But anyway, guys, look, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on the stories covered in today's WWE news video, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.